for those of you who are not butchers or who do not have a whole piece of beef in our dry aging room, this is a solution that we've come up with.
So what we've got here is a 1 kilo rib chop of dry aged Australian Angus beef. This has been grain fed for 300 days, and it comes with some really lovely flaky sea salt, a couple of the Butcher's Club signature steak knives, and one of our handmade chopping boards.
Now what we're going to do here is we're going to show you how to cook these in 2 methods. In fact, we're having a bit of a competition. I'm going to cook it in a pan.
He's going to burn it in a pan.
And I'm going to do it French style, which the French cook, normally wearing yellow trousers, called côtes de boeuf. And I'm going to cook that in a pan on this stove here. And Eric is going to cremate his on a grill.
All right, so shall we?
Let's do it.
All right. Now, I would always recommend that you let your steak sit out at room temperature for a good hour before you cook it. We've allowed these to rest at room temperature already, so they're perfect and ready to go on the grill. Now, I'm going to take a little bit of flaky sea salt and give a nice liberal coating to the chop on both sides, also around on the fat. There we go, and just pat that all in nicely. And a nice crack of fresh pepper. Again, be quite liberal with the seasoning. It's a very thick piece of meat, and you want all that salt and pepper to kind of permeate through and also create a nice crust on the beef during the cooking process. All right? So now, because I'm cooking it on a grill, which is extremely hot, I'm not going to put any fat or oil or anything like that on the steak. John is going to do enough fat for the both of us. Right, so nice, hot, clean grill, and right on.
What I'm going to do, I've got a red hot, thick bottomed skillet or pan, frying pan here on a really high heat. You can see smokes coming off it. I'm going to put mine down on the back side, on its back, and I'm going to give this a bit of a crust with searing. So as you see, I'm on a really hot heat.
You want your grill or frying pan to be smoking hot, as hot as possible. Our grills in our restaurants are typically around 500 or 600 degrees Fahrenheit. I mean, there is obviously the danger that you're going to burn it, but what we do when we cook a steak is we try to move it, especially when grilling, move it around and flip it as often as possible. It allows the surface of the steak to gain a very even, thick crust, as opposed to if you were to flip it infrequently, the crust would be covering a lot less of the surface, but a lot thicker. It takes a lot less testicular fortitude, I think, to cook in a pan, but that's why John's wearing his granny's do-rag there.
Which I borrowed from your granny that I'm at dinner with last week, by the way. So, I've got a nice crust forming on one side. I've got a nice crust formed on the top side. Okay, so this is a côtes de boeuf method. We've got a nice seal on it. I'm going to add the first part of this butter. Now, once we start adding butter, we've got to reduce the temperature. Otherwise, the butter's going to burn. And we've got to keep it moving. So I've come off the back full heat to one a little bit more gentle. And we're going to start basting this
This is
beef.
the healthy way to cook a steak, guys. Super healthy.
This is just normal butter. It's not clarified. See, I'm just going to baste this, and I'm now adding a more gentler heat. And we're keeping it moving the whole time. What I'm going to do now is add a little bit of thyme to this pan, and we're just going to keep it moving. And the thyme will infuse the butter, give it a flavor. Remember, this is quite a big piece of beef, over 1 kilo, so it's going to take a while. And we're just going to keep moving it around. This is going to be at least 20 minutes. It's a bit of trial and error and a bit of experience, but we're going to put this skewer down into the thickest part near the bone. Touch my bottom lip. It's going to feel lukewarm to warm to give us a rare or medium rare.
Now, whereas John's cooking it on low heat and basting it constantly, on the grill, we're cooking on a very high heat. I've got this steak on the hottest part of the grill, and I'm flipping it every 15, 20 seconds. in order to get those marks and those lines covering the entire surface of the steak, and also so that it doesn't actually burn all the way through. So as long as you constantly flip it, you're going to get a nice even crust and also a nice even cook throughout the piece of beef. No added flavor, no additional fat on this steak, just the flavor from that char grill, the salt and pepper, and the dry aging is what you're going to get with a barbecued butcher's club steak.
But in all honesty, I believe this gives a much better product, more flavor, nicer crust, but it takes a little bit more work, a little bit more time. We'll see soon which is the best product. So I'm turning this again. We're going to start basting on this side as well. So the butter you see is starting to go a little bit too brown here, so I'm going to reduce the heat a little bit. We don't want to burn this butter. I'm going to add a bit more, which will reduce the temperature.
I've got to say, that does smell pretty good. I thought you were more of a tenderloin man yourself, John.
Not at all, Eric. You're making that up, you lying bastard. It's totally untrue. So we've come up with a nice nut brown butter. We're about 3 or 4 minutes away, I believe, from this being rare. You could add some garlic to this at this point. I wouldn't bother peeling it. I'd just throw 3 or 4 cloves of garlic in here, and that'll give a garlicky flavor. But to be honest with you, this beef has got so much flavor in it already, you don't need to add anything other than salt and pepper. But if you are a garlic fan, you could add that to it as well. The thyme's just going to give it a slight bitterness to it. Get it to room temperature before you start cooking. That's going to take at least an hour for something this thick. So you leave it out of your refrigerator, let it warm up to room temperature, then season, and then into the pan. By getting it to room temperature, it relaxes the meat. It stops it from having a cold to hot reaction, which makes it tough. I can now feel some temperature, some heat through here, right next to the bone in the thickest part. So we're almost there. I'm going to give this 1.5 more minutes, and then we're going to finish and rest it.
Same with this guy. Just going to take my trusty pin, insert down into the center, right by the bone. Leave it there for a second, and then touch that to the bottom lip. And that is just starting to warm up a little bit, so a couple more minutes and we will be at rare as well. How's that deep fried steak looking there, Johnny?
It's looking fantastic,
Yeah?
Eric.
Yeah?
I have to say, much nicer than your burnt piece of crap.
I would have assumed that a man of your age would have been a little more conscious of the damage he'd be doing to his heart, but who am I to judge? Contrary
to popular belief, Eric, I am not an old man.
Who doesn't want that? Look at that beautiful, delicious, dark crust. Once I carve into that, we'll have a nice, deep, red, marbled interior. This is going to be the best steak you've ever had in your life.
Except this one. You don't want too many sauces, too many accompaniments. It's good as it is. And I'm going to finish there. I think I'm good to go. I'm going to remove this from the pan. I'm going to remove the pan from the heat. And I'm going to transfer this to a resting tray. So we've got a receptacle to catch the juices. What we're not doing is putting this straight onto a flat surface. If you do, it's going to steam. It's going to make that crust that you've spent a lot of time and energy creating. It's going to make it go soggy, and it's going to continue cooking the steak. So by resting this on a tray, it's allowed to breathe.
It also allows the muscles to kind of relax and the beef to be less tough. If you were to cut in and start eating that right away, the beef would not be as nice and soft as you'd imagine it should be.
So let's take a look. This is the same cut of beef. This is Côtes de Boeuf style.
And that is my perfectly char grilled rib of beef.
Mine's a little bit more refined, I have to say.
Mine tastes better, and it's cooked properly.
Mine tastes better and is cooked much better. So there you go. 2, at this point, perfectly cooked steaks. How long are you going to rest yours?
Yeah, probably about, I'd say probably about 10 minutes. Rule of thumb, always rest your steak for about half the time that you cooked it for. So if your steak took 10 minutes, You should rest it for about 5. In John's case, because he's cooked it to well done, you want to rest it for much longer than that.
We're going to rest it and then we're going to show you how to carve it.
Here's a tip for all you aspiring grill masters out there. Tongs are good for a lot more than just flipping a fucking steak with. You can use them to open your beer.
Well done, Eric. Nice. You can also use them for enhancing your jacket.
Right, so here is my beautifully, perfectly grilled steak. Nice dark char on the outside without actually being burned. That's going to give a really nice contrast of flavor and texture to the beef within. First, I'm going to take it off the bone, and then I'm going to cut it against the grain, as you generally should with beef. If you cut with the grain, the beef can kind of fall apart a bit. All right, there we go.
I'd just like to say at this point, my beautiful Côtes de Bœuf is resting a little bit longer than Eric's burnt shit ribeye. So mine may well be a little bit more than medium rare. We shall see.
It's because he's overcooked it. Obviously.
I don't think so.
Obviously.
I don't think so, but if I have, it's because we're waiting for this dickhead to carve this.
So if we can get a little close up there, get a nice, perfect, dark pink center, a beautiful, thick crust on the outside. Now that is exactly what you want your steak to look like when you're carving it. Not well done like John's deep fried piece of shit. All right.
I love you, Kenny.
There we are, and just fan it out a little bit so everyone can see that beautiful pink center. A little bit of our Butcher's Club sea salt on the corner of the board. And here we've got a little bit of our homemade grainy mustard, which is made with horseradish and dark ale. All right, and that is my perfect steak.
It looks shit. Now let's do the real thing. Here's mine, Côtes de Bœuf. We're going to do the same technique, but with a little bit more finesse. Taking it off the bone. And I can feel, as I'm carving this is perfect medium rare. There's no medium or well done about this, as Dickhead Eric might have suggested. This is the business. I'm going to cut this bit off and I'm going to slice it down the middle. Look at the fat, gelatinous, amazing. And I'm going to carve the same way. Nice thick slices, nice medium to medium rare. I do agree, this is a little bit more cooked than Eric's steak, but the proof is in the pudding, and we're going to taste this.
I guess that's acceptable.
And that's my version of a little bit more rested, perfect steak. I'm going to finish it with one thing. Some of the juices that we saved, the butter and these beautiful meat juices, we don't want to waste those. Just a little slithering. That'll make the big difference. And as Eric did, a dollop of our beautiful mustard.
Cool.
Better than yours.
That's pretty good.
I do like the color contrast though, the dark and the...
Charring the steak on the outside gives it that kind of intangible...
I agree, it totally does. But this is still better. Horses for courses.
Well, we'll let you guys be the judge. Pick up one of our Butcher's Club steak packs, take it home, try it on your grill, try it on the stove, and you let us know what you think.
I agree. And if you don't like it, it's his fault.